So the clock at Union Square is chiming 12, and I'm coming to you here at Rabbit Hole Central. And of course, if you've already logged on and you're watching the stream live, you know that. But for those of you who are not watching this stream live, you go to rabbitholecentral.tv and click on the Egyptian rabbit. And oh, we have a call. Rabbit Hole Central.
Well, it's me, Star. It was so good you put that stuff together. Just wanted to say good morning. I don't know what you're up to, but whatever.
What I'm going to do is I'm going to play the wrap-up of Howard Stern and his people talking about the show, and then I'm going to pause it and make comments, because they were saying that I was evasive on some of the questions.
Yeah,
so this will.
It's up on the tube and it's up on YouTube. It's up.
Right.
The interview. So yeah, I've been listening to it in segments.
Right.
Congratulations on having outreach to so many people and weathering the storm, as it were.
Well, we're still not out of the, out of the tornado yet. I'm going to be going to the National Arts Club on Friday. We're going to have a presentation there. Then on Sunday, I'm going to be at St. Mark's Church giving a presentation on nonviolent communication and corporations. Because as they explained in the wrap-up, that of the 9/11 truth seekers, there are different splinters, in the movements, and I'm hoping, using principles of nonviolent communication, people can stay together long enough so that as the evidence comes forward, people don't take it personally or hold on to one theory because they've become so identified with that theory.
I know. People get their identities wrapped up in a particular theory. You get an awful lot of that among the Trotskyite branches of Marxism, where they get so divided up on just a particular issue and everything. But that's great. Friday. What time is it on Friday at the Arts Club?
It'll be 6 o'clock at the Arts Club. We're asking for a $50 donation for the Concordia Foundation. But if anybody has been helping us, and if they're involved in, some of the 9/11 work that we've been doing, then please don't have that prevent you from coming, because we just want to be able to move forward, and we have really been working with very, very restricted resources, and we're really pleased that Alden James and the people at the National Arts Club were intrigued enough with what is emerging as a result of this investigation that goes on the internet, and a striving or a longing for some happiness to balance in life, some having fun, and some call it the DJ culture.
To have a few moments of real unrestrained happiness and sense of security about what you're about. That's really good. Anyway, I think it's fantastic you reached out like that.
Thank you, Harold.
Thanks enormously for letting us use the computer.
Yes.
We had our little meeting here, and it went well, I think.
And I would love if you could come to St. Mark's on Sunday, because I know.
I'm just putting everything together now.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of things. We were out. They had that hearing yesterday. We went to that.
Oh, how did that go? I was very interested in that. How did that go?
Well, it was really good. They had 13 people up on the stage, and it's a major event in terms of communication, because
I know.
They've given they proposed that it be approved a franchise for the Verizon company to put in New York City a really a thing called Philos. It's an up-to-date fiber optic based competition to Time Warner and RCN for all internet services to the people. So there were people commenting on that from all the boroughs and from the mayor's office that do it. And
that's Ryan in the background.
It was really interesting. Dan was there. They recorded it. Rick recorded it all.
You want to say hello?
So that's a major development. It was a hearing before the franchise committee that has to review what has been proposed by DoIT to approve this Verizon entry into the market for New York City. And it's really important in terms of public access and that. And they're making provision for public access, and but it was a major technological thing.
Well, I'd definitely like to study that issue more, because I was so wrapped up in preparing for this Howard Stern event.
Absolutely.
And then now I'm kind of busy on the National Arts one, but I want to focus on that, because I think it's like I said with Dan Coughlin, if you had an oil well in the middle of Central Park, it could not be more valuable. And therefore, considering what the ownership is, it's really, really important. But this actually has to do with what I'm going to do today. In the wrap-up, they were saying that some of my theories, and I'm a little crazy and so on. And they said, well, maybe she didn't really make $5 million. So this topic is intimately concerned with the way I did make the money. So as I roll in the wrap-up, then I'll pause and make comments. And hopefully, by the end of all of this, by the time I make it on Friday, for those people who are interested in helping the Concordia Foundation, feeling that it is making some serious contribution, I think they would be very pleased to know that there is a model on the table that will address poverty, homelessness, bad health care.
What I can get on the internet is a series of 10-minute pieces of the thing they did with you.
Well, I'm going to put it longer so you can do it all at once.
Yeah, that'd be really good to get that. And then what happened in the evening? I'm sorry, we had our little meeting over here. We were streaming and we had the meeting, and we've got that.
Oh, you mean what happened with our special Total Penetration?
I'm sorry, you changed the name to Total Penetration?
Total Penetration. I wanted to make it more Howard-esque.
Yeah, that's Howard-esque.
But it's the same.
Implications of sex and things, so that gets people's attention.
But it's the same topic, going into topics more deeply. So it's the same theme. It's just total penetration really has to do with the computer-generated images that went into the World Trade Center. Mm-hmm. So it had to be total penetration for the public to be galvanized against an enemy that if a regular airplane had hit the tower, it would have just crumpled and fallen to the ground. So you wouldn't have felt, the public would not have felt so invaded and therefore wanting to retaliate.
Yeah,
so,
that's the thought. That's psychologically deep.
Yeah, so that's the sexual symbolism.
The idea that they've got these weapon systems that we don't even know about. We all talk about atomic bombs and things, but they got these, weapon systems out of black operations in the military that are very, very destructive and use things
Nico says that the weapon systems are not secret. You can go onto the websites and you find that Boeing and Lear and all of these corporations are very much having conventions and meetings, and they're soliciting investments in them. They're not secret. It's just that people don't want to exert themselves to the horror to find out how in this sick economy, because that's what Robert Ashford said, that Louis Kelso said, if you don't go with the binary model and allow capital ownership by all, then what you have is a blood economy. So I think
it's all interrelated, isn't it?
Yes.
In a way. And what it adds up to is we're in a very existentially challenging time.
Right.
And everything. But I'm really glad that that it went so well with Howard Stern. You sounded like an angel on there. They're right. You've got a voice that could melt butter.
Aww.
And you're really good for radio and for everything. It was really good that you were able to put that together. Are you going to be able to put the program that you did in the evening up, or can we get to that?
It's up, Harold. It's up. Harold, it's up. It's up. Go to Paula Gloria. Go to youtube.com/Paula Gloria, and it's called Total Penetration. It's the last one I posted.
Oh, okay.
So you can see it.
You got it up there. The whole.
But why don't you stand by now? Because now what I'm going to do.
I just saying hello, honey. That's all.
But I would like you.
Something, so get going with
but
it.
Harold,
that's great. I got a bunch of things to do.
Harold, I would love to have your attention on what they say, and then when I pause and answer the questions, I would like you to watch it.
Let me look at that today. I'm taping tomorrow over them, and then that's something, gearing up for that.
Okay.
Congratulations to you all for having gotten such a major outreach. Okay.
Thanks.
I'm going to hang up. You go on with your show. I'm
Thanks.
Here
Bye.
And congratulations, honey. Keep going.
Okay.
And remember, think a year out.
Right.
Okay.
Bye, Harold.
Okay.
Bye.
Oh, well, I'm going to hang up now.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay. So what I want to do is go on with the wrap-up session that Howard Stern had talking about me, and I will.
He plans to get married, but we're going to start with today's featured guest. I think that's what you want to call her, and that was Paula Gloria. And Gary, how would you describe Paula?
Nut. She's a fucking nut. That's how I describe her.
Was she?
You know what? I joke around about that. She's like a hippie, and she's got wacky theories, and I'm sure she thinks that my theories are wacky. And, she's not a malicious person, but she has some very odd beliefs.
Did you think she'd be as crazy as she came off this morning?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think you do public access for more than 2 weeks unless there's a screw loose.
Richard, what did you think? I know you guys were phone pals.
Yeah, she's a very interesting.
I don't know how Harold is responding to that about public access, but I do remember that Howard asked me if you pay to be on public access, and no, you do not pay to be on public access. It's free, but you don't get paid. So some people consider that to be a little bit crazy, and I think that's what they might be referring to here. But I think Richard Christie, when he used to call in as Rusty, I think he's doing a pretty decent job.
A lot of her things, but she was very interesting. She's a great character, and she's a real nice lady, too.
I mean, you look at her life, she got that $5 million and then subsequently lost it. She did those shows. Clearly she has certain views about nudity and what's going on in the world. But Howard was struggling to follow anything that she was saying. Were you able to follow her okay during that interview?
Not really.
You know what, not to insult my good friend Benji, but Benji gives much clearer answers than she does.
Somebody was saying that she sounded a lot like you, Benj, when asked a direct question.
No, Benji,
you take a long way to get there.
Benji will at least if you go to Benji, just give me the fucking answer. He'll answer you. No matter how Howard tried to get a straight answer out of her, like it took a good 20 minutes. I still wasn't sure. Does she believe the Holocaust happened?
That's a complicated question.
Right.
And, the plaintiff, I represent the first plaintiff.
Yes, the first plaintiff she was speaking.
The first victim of the Holocaust, I think she said.
I thought, yeah, well.
I want to elaborate what I meant about the first. It wasn't the first victim of the Holocaust. It was the first plaintiff who had been at Auschwitz when she was 14 years old, and she was trying to get the money that her father had put in a Swiss bank, that he needed to put in Swiss banks because he was some kind of a cloth merchant who used to go from one country to another. So I found it ironical and very revealing about what was really going on with the Holocaust and what the media would have us believe, because why would it be that a lady who was in Auschwitz at 14 years old, who definitely had money that was in Switzerland, and it was in there because her father did business, was the one plaintiff who first started this whole process suing the entire country of Switzerland. It sort of gets hijacked from her, and people wind up with settlements, and it's questionable whether they actually were in the concentration camps they were saying they were in. So that's why I didn't want to elaborate too much then, because I could see and I understand why Howard has a lot of energy over the Holocaust, because he's saying if somebody denies it, they would be saying that his parents or his aunt was a liar. Rabbit Hole Central.
Hey, Paula.
Hi.
How are you?
Hi, are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening, but you don't answer the question if the Holocaust happened or not. I mean, I think you're saying it happened, but to not as great a degree. Is that what you're saying?
I'm not even saying that. I'm saying it merits a lot of study. And hey, you guys, you can hear, you pick up on the mics, thanks, because what I'm saying is it merits a lot more study than I felt comfortable with in that atmosphere, especially if people consider you crazy and I think they were trying to sort of defend the craziness, but they still wanted to have kind of an excuse to be able to talk about the things I'm talking about.
Right,
but
your
it's not.
Is that it did happen. I haven't gotten that clear myself, and I've known it for 8 years.
Let me say with Jean Klein, he always says, when you say you're not getting the knowledge that you want, the answer is in the question. I didn't feel safe with how the question was put to me, and I saw how important the answer was, that I had enough resources at my disposal at that moment to say what I truly feel about the Holocaust, and I still don't feel it. I still don't feel safe.
You don't have enough information to say one way or the other.
I do have an opinion, I do have an idea, but I think it's not worth it for me to share my opinion and idea as an authority, because I'm trying to get away from authority-based communication. What I would rather do is start to do some roll-ins of some of the material that I gained from 1/3oftheholocaust.com, and I don't think that the person that put that together knows everything either, but he definitely did a lot of work at the library at Berkeley with one of the professors who it seems as though is sort of a key figure. I can't even remember his name now, and before I go into it, I definitely want to know his name.
Right.
But the one roll-in is about 25 minutes long, so I'll probably make 2 shows on it. And it talks about Nazi shrunken heads.
Right,
And
but something did happen there. That woman was in Auschwitz, right? And maybe you
Oh,
could
yes.
interview her to describe
No,
what
yes,
happened
yes,
to her in
and-
Auschwitz. That would be a good interview.
that's what I just said before you called. Did you hear what I
You're
said?
going to interview her about her experience in Auschwitz?
Yes, definitely. But did you hear what I said about her before you called?
That she was the first to sue the Swiss government for her money?
She obviously came from a good family, a family that made her have a lot of sense of self-worth, a wealthy family, and a hard-working family. Her father would travel to different countries, and they were prominent members of their community. So she had the confidence to sue the entire country of Switzerland at a time when this was a really novel idea.
Right.
But all she was suing for, she wasn't suing because the Nazis treated her bad in Auschwitz. She was just trying to get money that was hers, left by her father.
Right. No, I
You
get
see?
that. I get that.
And-
But however,
and
the
then-
Howard Stern people, when you say outrageous things like you've made $5 million, they tend not to believe that. Also, and then they'll pick that up later in the broadcast. Even though I can testify you did do that, and many people can, but if they disagree with one part, they might disagree with all parts. So they kind of lump you into one category without looking at the specifics.
Well, even in the case of the 5 million, that's going to take a little bit of effort to document. But I wanted to do that on my website. I wanted to meticulously go into everything that people felt I was evading, and then show what the reverse triangular merger was between Sakuna Cellular and telephone and data systems in Chicago. Somebody like Marcus Dalton, he knows how to zip around the internet to find that information.
I don't think you have to defend yourself that much. I mean, of course.
No, I want to. I tell you.
Know that you did accomplish that.
But
That's
Alan-
a great accomplishment.
But Alan, I really want to, because it's such a sterling example of binary economics and of capital wealth. Because everybody is complaining that they're too poor and they're homeless and they're not respected and they can't do their work and all they need is just a little bit of money. But you really have to understand what money is. Robert Ashford says it's just a convenient medium of exchange, so you're not bartering. More important than the banking system and the different institutions that people want to tear down is who owns the capital, and particularly, like say on YouTube. If you don't have an ownership stake, how are you going to be able to determine which videos stay up and which go down?
Well, that's like all corporations left up to the head management people. So yeah, I agree with you on the binary economics.
But
I don't agree with you on the moon landing.
But
and
Alan,
the kid land on
but
the moon.
Alan,
I think all these points.
But Alan, please don't ridicule me by bringing
I'm
that
not
up.
ridiculing you. I'm just saying
Because-
I don't agree with you.
Yes, but the moon landing, we're not even talking about the moon landing.
No, but they lump
But-
all that into one category and place a label on you.
But why are you doing the same thing when I'm trying to explain a very important point here?
I understand. No, I'm interested in your point, but I'm saying just as a public, it's just good to break these things up into specific cases.
It's just frustrating because I was about ready to explain something, and it's so deflating what you just said.
No, please.
And
explain it,
it's so
because I'm
deflating.
open to
If
hearing
it's
it.
so deflating to bring up the moon landing when I was trying to talk about binary ownership.
Well, no, I want to hear what you have to say about binary ownership. It's just that people don't take it seriously if it doesn't go along with their belief systems about the other stuff. So how do we start to?
That's why I wouldn't answer the question, because as soon as I gave an answer that wasn't their answer, they would discount everything else. So it's better for me to hang in there if I could possibly have the way to exchange some information.
Well, I'm interested in the binary economics, and I think you're onto something.
So
really
what
good
Norman Kurland said is, if you don't have a capital ownership in a company, if you can have something they call employee stock ownership, but if it's not significant, that means you won't have voting rights. And without voting rights, who knows how things will go. And they even took the brilliance of Louis Kelso, because he wrote the Capitalist Manifesto in the 1950s. And by the time his idea was to utilize unutilized capacity. So if you had a train that's going across the land empty, but you have people riding the rails so dangerously, right, on the wheels, because they can't afford a ticket. That's unutilized capacity. It means that they don't have the money to be able to buy a ticket. Now, this isn't about the Federal Reserve or the banking system. This is a bigger problem about making the capacity more utilized.
Well, you could say the same thing about the office buildings in New York. There's a lot of homeless, and all those buildings at night stay empty. I mean, it's the same thing.
No, you're absolutely correct on that. Now, the problem I'm having as the head of the Concordia Foundation is people who are the artists who are, or maybe have been to prison because they've had a little bit of marijuana, and they're getting on the wrong side of this blood economy. Because that's what Louis Kelso said. If you don't distribute capital, you're going to have a blood economy, either making weapons or you have a school to prisons program.
I think Noam Chomsky picked up on that term as well,
It could be. He may have got it from Kelso, because Kelso was definitely a really important thinker. And he had important, powerful people. He had the head of, whoever it was that did the Encyclopedia Britannica. So he had those kind of connections, and that's definitely what the Concordia Foundation needs right now. Like, they said that they would have me come back on the Howard Stern show, but I don't know if I need any more alignment with a whack packer or to be crazy.
No, I think you should, because these ideas get out into the public. I may not agree with them, but I'll defend your right to say them. So
yes.
I think people should hear about this.
Yeah, but it doesn't do any good to say I don't agree with your ideas, but I wanted to listen to you talk about it endlessly.
No, I agree with some of your ideas. I don't agree with everything, but I think it's important that it's out in the public.
But usually when people say what you're just saying,
yeah.
what they're saying is, I want to be accepted by the prevailing opinion until I'm sure that the prevailing opinion has incorporated or accepted what is making you look crazy, and I don't want to be crazy too. So that's what I have to overcome. So
I don't know if I agree with that interpretation of what I said.
Well, either that or people don't have an attention span that you need. So I'm hoping at the National Arts Club, with 4 hours in a nice, serene, quiet, peaceful, dignified setting, I can unfold what my vision is, how we can see that the horror that happened during 9/11, that Nico was frustrated because Harold was saying that these are secret weapons, and he says they're not secret. It's not at all secret. You can go to these conventions and the websites of about 40 big corporations. But again, why I'm excited to speak at St. Mark's Church about nonviolent communication corporations is it's not the corporate structure that's the problem. It's not that corporations per se are evil. It's that we have to develop the attention span to understand what are our corporations producing and who owns the corporations. So the beauty of binary economics is you don't have to tear down all the institutions, the insurance companies, the reinsurers, the banks. All of that can be in place. If it's good enough for the Rockefellers, for the Buffetts, it'll be good enough for the common person.
Yeah, I agree that binary economics can change the landscape of the world. I mean, it really can.
And the reason I have to persist on with the horrible topics of the dustification of the World Trade Center and to really consider how they came down is, unless people are really, really understanding the horror of our blood economy, they won't take seriously the need to look into a radical, and even radical has a bad slant to it, a very big step, a paradigm-shifting idea in the economy. They won't do it. That's my problem with the Holocaust, the moon landing, all these things.
Well,
if
I
show
agree
my
with you on the blood economy, and if people can wake up to that, the fact that we are in a war economy, that there's a massive weapons industry that doesn't care about people starving or the infrastructure of the cities, and that the government is out of touch with the needs of the people. I think that's an important point.
And that there's a way to get back in touch. The needs of the people is not just for knowledge that then they can't handle, because I find in a lot of the 9/11 truth movements, there's so much grief, so much heartbreak, so much anger, so much frustration that they do wind up feeling crazy or looking crazy, because what they want to do is just take this knowledge and dump it on somebody, not really having been educated with the tools to have the capacity to support people through the process, that things may not be what we see on television.
Right, and I do think that Bush and Cheney are public servants that have gotten out of touch with the needs of the people. I think in the European parliamentary system at this point they would have dissolved the government.
Well, see, I don't agree that Bush and Cheney is the problem. That's why the reinvestigation is not my strategy. But let me tell you, Les Jameson, even though it's very much his strategy, is allowing me to speak with him at St. Mark's Church on nonviolent communication in corporations only. And I'm saying that by understanding skills of empathy building, then you're going to have a chance to go out and start connecting with people. But
I think we should show a little clip of the Marshall Rosenberg.
it won't be a little clip. It's going to be 80 minutes.
You're going to show the 80 minutes of it?
I mean, I'll show it until people are tired, but I think it's very riveting, and it's a very important topic to master in order to bring together the plane huggers, the no-planers, the reinvestigators.
Talk and then show the parts of the interview. I don't know if people will be able to see it all, but the first part is really good, where he talks about corporations being gangs.
But the last part is good too. You ask him about Palestine,
right?
You know, and he says that the land. You said, don't they both need the same land to live on? And since he's been in Israel and he's had Palestinians and Israelis, he firsthand can talk about the issues. And he said the land is a strategy. Once both sides know what their needs are, then the resolution can come quickly. And this is why I want to go into the Holocaust. Not to say, I believe this or you believe that, but whatever you believe, is it going to move humanity into a brighter future? Because right now...
The other thing is there's many Holocausts that have happened since World War II, and there's Holocausts that are going on right now that people aren't in touch with or are denying. So I think,
But I could see with Howard Stern that as soon as the memory came up about his aunt and so on, it was, you had to be really careful.
Yeah.
You'd have to be really careful.
But you do hit emotional triggers with people who have lost relatives. I mean, what happened at the World Trade Center was a Holocaust,
Well, right now, how I hit a sensitive spot when I go down to Ground Zero and I carry a sign that says, investigate the death of Dan Wallace. People go berserk on that.
Who was Dan Wallace again?
Dan Wallace was a young man who was a friend of one of the guys I'm letting sleep on the floor here, because...
Oh, and someone killed him?
I think it merits an investigation.
Right.
It merits an investigation. Now, Les Jameson's faction of the 9/11 Truth Movement is not as invested with the implications of some badness around this. Mm-hmm. But We Are Change is more affected by it. And I'm not saying that Luke or Sabrina or, I'm not pointing fingers at who did it. I think people can innocently participate in some strings being pulled behind the scenes. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think it's very important to understand the organizations where you're putting your energy. And I respect Harold Channer for saying that he's not an activist. He doesn't just run off and do something.
Right.
Because, but then you don't want to, like Nico Haupt says, endlessly Fruit Loop and talk about something when definitely bold steps do need to be taken.
Right.
But you have to inform yourself.
Thank you. I think we should continue with the wrap-up, because
I don't know if I have enough tape.
On there, he goes out, first he says he's against what you're saying, and then he comes in as someone who supplies evidence for the whole 9/11 movement. So it's interesting how he turns his position around.
Well, I would like to think that at the Howard Stern place, I really enjoyed the people, and I really enjoyed being there. They obviously, the professionalism, the ease. It's so wonderful to just be talent.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about sound levels and all these other things.
Nice. Yeah.
But I was a little disappointed when Sal Gubernelli, who said he knew Edna, gave me the wrong telephone number. He told me that 516-922-WINE was the number to reach him, and you get some jokester there. So I think...
that's not Sal. I mean...
Sal Gubernelli?
I don't know.
I see. I don't know enough about what goes on with all of them, but
I think we should acknowledge Rusty for having gotten you this far, even though
yeah, definitely, definitely, and I think Rusty was defending me also when they were doing the wrap up, and I think kind of understandably protecting the ego, because nobody wants to take a position that's so against the grain easily, particularly when a lot of those people that are supporting this position do look to be having unstable lifestyles. People want stability in their life.
How's Rosalie doing?
She's doing good.
Okay,
I'm going to carry on.
Steve Cates called to congratulate you. Did he talk to you?
Yes. I want to carry on, okay?
All right, go ahead.
Thanks.
Please answer those questions in the wrap-up.
Okay.
I think it's important.
Okay, thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Bye.
Did you find her tough to follow, Benj, or did you understand her?
Yeah, I did, but I also know we're real cynical about anyone that's like her. But I even like the $5 million. She didn't give a quite straight answer. I don't even know if she actually ever had the $5 million.
We're taking.
Okay, now that's great. I'm so happy to talk about my actually having the $5 million, and I can create just one little link on my website. I will do that in the future, and people can click on that, and they can see the whole history of Tsakana Cellular. And incidentally, I have a business confession that goes along with that I posted actually on Blip TV a long, long time ago, and it was because of watching Howard Stern's Private Parts that I had the courage to do what I felt was the right thing. And what I did was I revealed a little bit of I revealed the conspiracy that me and a group of people did in order to ensure that we would be a little safe about the investment that we were making. It wasn't really so much an investment as taking advantage of a binary opportunity, an opportunity to have a capital ownership in cellular telephone licenses. But the fact that I have gone that path once means that I can understand why most of our wealth comes not from labor but from capital. No matter how hard you work, you will never be able to achieve the power, the wealth that's necessary to get more capital ownership. And even wealthy people, they don't even use their own money. They go to reinsurance companies and they buy based on the predicted earnings of future capital. This is not margining. It's a deep topic. I'll carry on in either on my website or in future shows. So thank you for questioning whether I made $5 million.
Benji's exactly right. I think that once she started talking about all her other stuff, everything she said comes into question. Who knows if she really had $5 million?
Well, she said she was like trading on margin, and there was this triangular whatever.
Triangular merger.
At that point, Howard was.
Now, I want to say, I think a lot of people do trade on margin, and that is highly risky. That's not what I've done. But I think a lot of people have lost a lot of money by trading on margin. I've never been a risk taker.
So I don't know if the word is annoyed, but he was so done with trying to untangle what she said.
Oh, excuse me. Except for the risk of going on the Howard Stern show. I can take risks that way. And when I did Total Penetration in the evening, I was dealing with very volatile energies that were very passionate, extraordinarily talented, but there was a certain risk, and Alan Steinfeld was the more, I guess, straight, conventional person who was embracing the official story of 9/11, and I felt that his presence there would be in harmony with Howard Stern, because Howard Stern, certainly on air, has said that he does believe in the official version of 9/11, that 2 airplanes crashed into the buildings, the heat from the airplanes, the jet fuel, melted the buildings, they toppled down in 11 seconds, mostly turning into dust because the weight of the building wouldn't even, there wasn't even enough earthquake. If it was a regular controlled demolition, the weight of that building would have caused a certain predictable, according to a civil engineer, could predict the type of reverberation you would get. The World Trade Center dustified, so. But Alan represented the official version. And in many ways, it's easier to take people from the official version to what we feel accounted for the destruction of the towers than to go into these hangout positions, which is talking about controlled demolition. But again, for Les Jameson and others who do embrace the controlled demolition theory, the important thing is that we stay connected with each other as the researchers keep bringing more research forward we stay connected as more evidence comes forward, and then we'll naturally find our right balance and harmony. So let's carry on with the wrap-up.
Just push that conversation right off the table.
Now,
And then it got to her hairy muff, which she said.
That was
she
awesome.
Said, yeah, that was funny that she admitted that she doesn't shave.
Well, I love the Maharishi's secretary got her to shave down. 'Cause you know.
So I was willing to do the sex thing, and I wanted to actually go farther, but again, you have to be sure that you are in a safe environment.
He used some like he didn't just say like, hey, I love a bald pussy. He made it in some sort of more
I heard
esoteric way.
I heard he did the same thing for Mia Farrow.
now, before we get into the genitalia, she had obviously a 9/11 conspiracy theory and said it was a cartoon, saw people waving, whatever else. I think it bothers everyone here, but for some reason, I think it really stirs up a lot of venom towards her because everyone was here for that.
Because we were all here for that. But again, the only reason, like, I could get really angry at her, she's not talking about it in a malicious way. You know, some people who are just malicious about it. She's just a little out there. She believes it. I think that I find her to have ignorance rather than malice. So it's hard for me to get mad at her. It's easier for me to write her off and go, she doesn't know what the fuck she's...
Rabbit Hole Central. Hello?
Thank you, Al-Qaeda here. Who am I talking with?
Oh, you're talking to Paula, and I'm streaming right now, and I'm doing the wrap-up show. Here, let me actually pause it, because I don't know if I have enough
No,
time.
I do have something to... someone sent me these things out of Afghanistan and Iraq, or IED detection booklets. So I'm going to sign them all by Al-Qaeda.
Say, can I take this opportunity to say that AQ Al-Qaeda, the person who's on the line right now, is going to be... what are you going to be doing on Friday? Can you tell people in your own words?
Yeah, I'll be having a anti-terrorist 9/11 celebration healing art show at the Art Center in Gramercy Park.
It's not the Art Center. It's the National Arts Club.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
it's 15 Gramercy Park South. It's open to the public. It's a $50 donation to the Concordia Foundation, but if people do not have money, we will not turn anyone away. But it is a fundraiser for funds that are desperately needed, because we feel we're doing work that's important to support. So can you continue, Al, about what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, I'll be displaying my pictures and illustrations of veterans and firefighters, all for Memorial Day weekend. Also, I do have about a dozen 9/11 related pictures, and also these booklets smuggled out of Afghanistan and Iraq. They're for IED detection pamphlets. I got sent all these military stuff. I don't know if this is classified or unclassified, but AQ Al-Qaeda has them now.
Well, that'll be great. Al, I want to move on with my wrap-up, but let me tell you, Rosalie and Ryan are going to be going over to Brooklyn, so there's space for you to come here and stay with us until the event, so you can be more relaxed about setting it up. Because I want it to be a really nice event. I know it will be. And I encourage people to come. So you can come over as soon as you want.
Oh, cool.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
Because they're already heading out to Brooklyn. Okay?
All right.
Okay, thanks, Al.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
So let's carry on with the
But
wrap-up.
I guess she feels the same way about me. I couldn't understand how come you can cartoon planes flying in, but it's impossible to put in people waving. Do you know what I mean? Like she said.
Okay, let me answer that one. That's important to answer. When you take the video footage of the lady waving, it appears to be a lady, and there's a couple other people, it's video footage. And when you take that video footage and you explode it, it's not until you hit 700% that you can see pixelation. Whereas when you look at the cartoons that were going into the World Trade Center, you hardly have to explode it at all and magnify it at all before you see a pixelation. And then there's other ways to see that it wasn't the same. Rabbit Hole Central.
Yeah, I think you should show the tape of Edna waiting.
I think I'll create a link because I don't have enough tape to get through all of this wrap-up.
Oh, I see.
But I will.
Definitely show that to those
Okay.
because that is
Thanks
the truth.
for-
There were people waving.
Thanks for following, Alan, okay?
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye. So let me carry on with that.
No. You could never put people waving. That could never be put in digitally.
Yeah, so anyway, I like that they were paying attention, that they noticed how come with the one waving, you're saying that that's not fake, whereas you're saying the airplanes going in are fake. It shows that they listen. That's why these crank callers, I always appreciated them, even in the old days when I had my weekly call-in show at MNN, because I could see they were very intelligent. Even if only using their intelligence to set me up for a good joke, I admired that. But I also want to say that I knew straight away the energy was different, because when I used to get regular calls from people who were following my information, there was more innocence and more open-heartedness about it. And at Total Penetration that night, I don't think we got any real calls from people, and that makes me a little sad. And on my computer, they showed me the names, a little blurb about what they wanted to talk about, and their numbers, so I could be making my own calls and it didn't look like I was being censored. But about halfway through the show, maybe about 15 or so calls would dropped off to, maybe only 7. So that's psychologically discouraging, because you think, the show's a train wreck, it's not working, and nobody's even bothering to call in. But I did hear that people who really wanted to call, who follow my work, very much my fans, they just kept getting a busy signal. They could not get through, and this makes me sad. I'm also, it's not like I have to hear from my fans. I definitely wanted to have the opportunity to get into a wider audience, but I certainly wanted to hear, how is regular America reacting to this? How are the truck drivers and the blue-collar workers reacting to this? Because these are the people who I want to show the binary model to. That's why I say I made $5 million in cellular telephone licenses, but so did a truck driver. And there's so much prejudice against poor people or regular people becoming wealthy that they use this as an argument in Congress to close that loophole that allowed people to get these licenses. They say, oh, truck drivers are becoming millionaires. Yeah, well, so what? What that means is if more people had greater wealth, the feeling of Harold Channer, of myself, of Alan, is you don't have to be abused to be a good artist. So why, for example, people aren't going to become all lazy and decadent if they have access to more wealth. Trust people. If you think private property is correct, and if you're enjoying your private property, whether it's your apartment in New York or some stock or whatever, your car or whatever it is that you're owning, why not trust that other people can take care of private property if you give them that opportunity too? Gramercy Park is a locked private park. People go, oh, this is terrible, open it up and let everybody come in. Well, I say no, keep it private and use that as a model for more private parks. Let more people have private ownership and let them take care of their things. So anyhow, I'm glad they were listening.
But they put in a cartoon of the plane going in.
Well, you understood more than I did when listening to this
And
interview.
why did you use the word cartoon? What's a cartoon?
I know, that confused me. Teddy, hit clip number 1.
Cartoon means because the public has been raised on cartoons, when we see Wile E. Coyote go through a barrier, he leaves a little Wile E. Coyote, cutout, and the same thing with the Roadrunner. So this is, we've grown up with this image, and pretty soon we start blurring what we think is possible to what really is impossible, and that was why you say cartoon. And the other thing is, if you want to say computer-generated images aren't cartoons, well, what I'll do on the website is I will throw that out to the experts, create a link where people can go directly over to that. Anything I put on my website, I want to be personally responsible for it to be tight. I'm not just going to throw people over and say, okay, there's a mountain of material for you to go through. I'm going to use my background as a retailer. I'll go to the warehouse that's dusty and huge amount of things, buy for a lower price, and then put it into my little shop where I make sure all the dust is off and that it's, it's looking beautiful. I want this knowledge to look beautiful because I feel, even though it's horrible knowledge, that if we can make our way through it, we will be able to have the radiant health, the happiness, better connections, more meaningful life. So.
Here's Paula talking about 9/11.
What do you think caused the buildings to fall then? Clearly they're not there. What caused them to fall?
You mean what caused steel to turn into dust?
Yes.
I know I don't believe thermite. They tried to do that at Burning Man to show thermite, could possibly...
Okay, I want to pause here. I said this is, I was told this is where I lost people. Stephen Jones, who was the man who stopped cold fusion 25 years ago, and if he hadn't done it, we wouldn't be dependent on oil. He was one very important character in this stopping of this new technology. He pushes a thermite theory. He says that thermite, which anybody can pick up on eBay, accounts for how the World Trade Center came down so quickly. And in order to intensify this theory, to show how possible it was, they did a demonstration at Burning Man. Now, Burning Man is in the desert of Nevada, and that's where about 30,000 people get together, and they sort of go crazy over the weekend. There's a lot of nudity and drugs and, I guess, sex. And a lot of techie people. It's not really the hippies. Hang on. Rabbit Hole Central. Oops. Rabbit Hole Central.
Hi, Paula?
Yes, I'm streaming right now.
Okay, but I'm canceling my 1 o'clock so you can call me.
Okay, let me stop. Thermite was demonstrated at Burning Man, and the demonstration failed. You could see very quickly that thermite would not account for how the World Trade Center came down. That's what I meant by that. So now carry on.
But if you've got people waving from a hole, it's certainly not going to be...
What do you think happened?
Now, what I meant by waving from a hole was it was room temperature. I mean, it wasn't that hot. It wasn't the jet fuel that caused such heat that it burned the steel. And I know Alan had said, God bless Alan, that, well, it was delayed. This heat would happen an hour later. But that doesn't make a lot of sense, and I think very intelligent people, too, can be kind of mentally locked. And that's, again, what I felt when I was looking at Howard Stern when the Holocaust question came up. This is not a place where I felt that a question that really is on the level of sacred, it didn't feel like sacred ground for me to start dealing with that answer. But I definitely will. I definitely will, because Gisela Weishaus, she wants to work with me more, and when I had set up more studio time, she couldn't do it because it interrupted with Passover, and she is an observant Jew, but I will do it in the future. So.
Oh, that's
right.
already.
Buildings aren't there anymore. What happened?
Yeah, what's the conspiracy?
Well,
Did planes hit the building or not?
This is not a conspiracy, by the way.
Okay.
Conspiracy,
Did planes hit the building?
You just go on your VCR, hit
And speaking of conspiracy, I want to say that when I did my business confession based on Howard Stern's private parts, the conspiracy of 9/11, I was very concerned about Larry Silverstein owning building number 7. Because people do have races and they do have prejudice, and I wanted to really address the limitations of that type of conspiracy that can lead to anti-Semitism. When I said that the television fakery done during 9/11 is not a conspiracy, what I meant by that was you can just hit rewind and look at all of the images. And I know that Alan has said that he wants to be convinced, he wants to look at the material. Rosalie was so upset after the Total Penetration taping because Alan had said he was the voice of reason, and she felt that was a slap in the face to her 7 years of work that she said is very much based on science and observation. And so I think Alan, in seeing her reaction, was willing to take the time that it's going to take to go through this carefully, to where then you can come out and take a courageous position. Hopefully, in the venue of the National Arts Club, we will, as I said, in a nice, quiet, peaceful, and dignified setting, be able to allow the evidence to develop more. And then on Sunday, thank you so much to Les Jameson. I'll be with him at St. Mark's Church using nonviolent communication as one other method to make the time right to where we can ask these difficult questions.
Rewind and go frame by frame, and you watch.
Paul, did planes hit? A lot of us aren't following this. Did planes hit the building?
Well, I don't believe so.
You don't believe
What caused the big...
So there you go. I was finally forced into a position where, just by dint of authority, what does Paula believe? And I said what I believed. But what I wanted to do was create connections of empathy so that somebody doesn't believe what I believe just by virtue of my authority or lack of authority. Because if I'm crazy, then you don't want to believe or think or even go in the direction of what a crazy person goes into. But you can see right here, Robin saves the day for me.
Gash.
Gash. Keyword. Gash.
That's, well, what the tendency is to be ridiculed for thinking, to
Definitely.
try to think about it.
And
See, the tendency is to be ridiculed for trying to think about these things. That's what I meant.
she was ridiculed, but rightfully so, in my opinion.
And rightfully so this person also can stay on the right side of the social consensus. And that's what I feel true artists are usually the first ones to depart from the paradigm of what the entire society is accepting. And then eventually, what the society at first ridicules, when they come to, I think first it's ridiculed, then it's violently opposed, and then it's accepted as obvious.
Benj, I know you, at least you look into these conspiracy theories. Like, was she coming from a completely bizarre place, or do other people subscribe to what she was?
I think there's a huge movement. Any kind of horrible tragedy throughout history, people always want to say, like, oh, there must have been some, it wasn't on the surface what happened. And there's a huge movement, especially with the internet, of a 9/11 community that has all kinds of, theories.
But there's different movements argue with other movements, too. Like, there was an email that Fred sent out of another movement that said Paula's crazy, but they had another conspiracy theory.
But Benji's right, because...
So see, that's God bless Richard Christie there. He said that the people that were calling me crazy, others could call them crazy. So just to give you a little insight into what goes on with these earnest seekers of truth, the feeling is if one theory is crazy, then you don't want to be associated with that. But I'm saying we should sort of all move ahead and shed these labels, and let's just look at the evidence. And let's not make each other wrong no matter what we're embracing, whether it's official story, whether it's the hangout of the controlled demolition, or whether it's the television fakery. Because eventually, if we can be persistent with the evidence and stay connected, we will discover who the perpetrators are. And in that case, then we need to develop the skills of empathy and figure out what to do. For me, punishment never works. I'm not going to be satisfied by drawn quartering someone or putting them in prison. I'm going to be satisfied with the distribution of capital ownership, because I feel it's an example of the blood economy that happens when there's a lack of imagination in the hands of too few who have a great deal of power. And so they seek for investments in weapons, in prisons, in things that cause a lot of sadness to society. So
My son Jackson's 13 years old. He comes home one day, and there's this movie that's on YouTube and on the internet. I think it's like 45 minutes long. I forget what it's called, but somebody would call in and know in a minute what it's called.
Loose Change?
That's the one.
Yeah,
Loose
that's
Change.
a popular
So, of
one.
course, my son watches it. He's like, Dad, you have to come and see this. So I watch it, and I have to explain to him that it's all bullshit. And now I get calls from people going, no, I'm wrong, it's not bullshit. But listen, we were here in the city that day. We know people who died. We know people who were down on the scene. It is what it is.
For a while, we were advertising a bit.
I don't know what that means. It is what it is. Does that mean, when you say it is what it is, that whatever the media says it is, that's what it is? Now, loose change, those of us who believe in the television fakery, not as a conspiracy, but just looking at a conspiracy, of course, to pull it off, but when you look at the evidence of it, you're not speculating like you are with Thermite, and then showing at Burning Man that Thermite really doesn't account for it. Screw Loose Change is an organization that does not believe in loose change. Apparently they really won't say how they felt it can be done, so they must be also official version 2. And that's something we were trying to do with the art and the humor, and that would pretty much be Nico Haupt in his character as Nico Hitler, how he was dealing with it.
Video that called into question, and some people here seem to subscribe to it, that whether or not the Pentagon was hit.
I know this. I mean, you know.
But who do you?
Why don't we just all bring up my DVD of Capricorn 1, and we can decide whether anyone ever.
Oh, there we go, Capricorn 1. So that's where the moon landing stuff came in. So these are obviously smart people who are working, you know, with Howard to keep the audience connected, to deal with ratings, to deal with sponsors. All of that stuff is, it takes a lot of savvy. And so they're starting to see some similarities running. And that's what I was avoiding. I wanted to do one thing at a time, but the most important thing I wanted to do and still want to do is create connections of empathy, because I'm confident that we can be like real scientists and that the evidence will come forth. And once it does, that's when we have to put on the table constructive solutions.
Like Howard asked her if she thought somebody walked on the moon, and again, she couldn't say yes or no. She goes, you know, I did not have a strong feeling of patriotism when it happened. I'm like, well, give me the fucking answer.
So why do they want the fucking answer? Why do they want it from me? That's what I'm truly wondering about. And that's what one of my great teachers, Jean Klein, said. When you're seeking knowledge, real knowledge, don't complain that you're not getting the real knowledge, because the answer lies in the question. How are you asking the question? And a real master who has that knowledge, he's going to evaluate who's asking, and he's going to see whether he wants to give the answer or not. Because once he gives that answer, he has karma in just giving that answer. So he wants to make sure that who he gives it to is going to run with it. So if you knew whether the moon landing was true or not, of what use is it for you to know? Are you going to come out boldly with that knowledge and start to make some steps based on it? Well, I can say, thanks to having this model finally of binary economics, I had a rough idea of its reality just because of my own experience having made $5 million. But now that I see it's an entire body of knowledge, and all it seeks is, you know, if you just had $5 million, you could have at a regular recognized university a school of binary economics, and then you would have 50 schools all over. So you wouldn't have to depend on, you know, Howard Stern, you know, media people to do this. I'm never pretending to be a scientist or a scholar, but I definitely think, you know, I'm pretty good at networking and finding different bits of information and putting my energy behind those people who do have good ideas, the cellular ones. Even though the Wall Street Journal and Forbes said cellular suckers, I trusted the people who discovered the loophole.
What do you guys think is crazier, though, like Riley Martin or Paula?
I think Riley, deep down inside, knows he's full of shit. I really do. I think that, but I think deep down inside, he knows. He's more like a snake oil salesman to me. That's just very good at it.
And Paula doesn't believe what she's saying?
No, I think Paula believes what she says. Totally.
So she's a little wackier then.
Yes.
JD.
See, you know, trust only by the amazing results. I believe because I've gone the path. When you've made the $5 million and you have that cash in the bank, well, it wasn't cash, but I definitely had the stock. All of a sudden, without even applying, I'm issued an American Express card. And I remember not having been rich for so long, teaching transcendental meditation, living off initiation fees. This was like a real rush to go and to travel around Europe with my handsome boyfriend and pick up the International Herald Tribune and check the stock price, and, you know, you're up a couple 100,000 today, or, you know, I think at one time it was actually 7 million if I'd actually liquidated the stock. So once there was some screw up with my American Express card, and I remember, you know, you always feel there's something you did wrong. Well, I still felt that when the card wasn't working. So when I was straightening it out, I said, hey, by the way, this lady with this nice southern accent, I was in Europe, what is my credit limit? And she looks at it and she goes, wow, well, it says $5 million. And then she asked me with her southern drawl, are you a singer? And I said, no. Why? Or, you know, someone in media? And I said, no. Why do you say that? And she goes, because you have a beautiful voice and you're filthy rich. So, you know, that's why I believe what I believe.
What do you think?
Yes.
I think she's a little, she's a little crazy. That's it. You asked, John. Sorry.
No.
Would you like to expand on that?
No, she's crazy. That's it.
He's all pissed off because he couldn't pitch a tent with Miss Howard Stern today, Miss Howard TV.
No, I couldn't pitch a tent because people were watching.
So people don't watch you at a strip club? Do you get boners at strip clubs?
Lap dance, George Takei.
So there you go, and I will post this. I thought I was going to be able to get through all 4 parts, but I'm really glad that Alan called in and had the elaborations. It's a beginning. I don't have the web skills I would like to yet to get in and out, but thanks to Jim the Linux Guru, he's going to help me with it. So I want to start putting more energy on paulagloria.com because I don't want to put information out there that I can't account for. But there was a great master in India, and he looked at me and he said, all great people have been considered crazy. And I had no idea how painful it was throughout the years to actually carry that label, even starting from my father. It was really my father's voice that I heard in the back of my head when he said that. He said it when Molly and I were together. And Molly is soon going to be coming out with a book about our adventures in India and in the spiritual path, working with all the different cults. But it was, you do need people, those who want the knowledge can seek out those who have that knowledge so they can get the direction and find the way. And it's something that I believe with the internet we have a chance to be kind of self-teaching this way. You post some information, you get the feedback, you sort through that which may have an ulterior motive. There may be professionals on my site giving comments that are to either obscure a certain truth or promote something that might not be true. But even to them I'm saying, look at binary economics and see, is this something that your heart is really into? And if you were economically liberated, is this what you'd be doing? And meanwhile, to everybody, start doing what you feel liberates you. Start right away. Don't wait for the perfect time or the perfect millions of dollars to be in your account so that you can do what you really want to do. Just start doing it right away. So I'm going to end the stream today. I'll get this posted, and I will carry on with parts 2, 3, and 4 of the wrap-up of the Howard Stern people commenting on my show. Thank you very much. This is Paula Gloria, over and out.